connecting neighborhoods across the Treasure and Magic Valleys, telling stories from within our communities. This is Good Morning Idaho.
Good morning, Idaho, and happy Monday, everybody. I'm Leslie Solis, and we've got a packed show for you this morning from our large team of neighborhood reporters, bringing you stories over the weekend. Like our Riley Shoemaker speaking with attorney Josh Hurwitz to get a look at what went behind the scenes and leading up to Brian Kohberger's sentencing. Plus, our Steve Dent follows up at Lake Lowell, where Idaho Fish and Game are hoping that local anglers will help manage their walleye problem. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's check out the weather with our Sophia Cruz.
Thanks, Leslie. Happy to have you here on this Monday morning, and it's Monday. I know Monday scaries are a real thing, but the sun is starting to come up, and as it wakes up with us this morning, temperatures look nice and cool, 64 to start the day. It's just a gorgeous shot that you guys get out here at Twin Falls. Now, across the area, we all look really nice and cool. You've got lower 60s as you make your way into Baker City, upper 40s still hanging on in Stanley, and some 50s really starting to trickle in those mountains. As we head into this afternoon, it is still going to be a toasty one, so heads up on that front. 99 into Glens Ferry, 98 over in Ontario, mid-90s as you head into the upper Treasure Valley. If you're following along in our mountains, you've got those comfortable lower to upper 80s. We will be looking at a chance for evening storms. Now, this really shows us across southwest Idaho and into eastern Oregon, so I have all the storm timelines you need to know coming up, and then also what we could see impact us as we go through the week. Leslie?
Thanks, Sophia. We turn now to the heartbreaking news over the weekend. A plane crash in Nampa that left a family of 3 dead. Our Steve Dent reports.
Just before 6 o'clock on Sunday evening, a plane crashed into a neighborhood here in Nampa. I'm your neighborhood reporter, Steve Dent, and all 3 people aboard that plane have died, but there were no injuries here in the neighborhood. A shocking scene as this plane sits in the backyard of a house located on the corner of Venice and Oak, just west of the Nampa airport. All 3 people have died, and it's the first deadly plane crash Lieutenant Brad Childress of the Nampa Police Department can recall.
We definitely, our hearts and prayers go out to the families that are involved with this. It's never good news to receive that information, and hopefully that if they have any further questions, they can definitely reach out to us and we can be assistance in any way.
According to flight logs, this Mooney M20 plane took off from Nampa at 5:40, but it was only in the air for minutes. A neighbor told me he saw the plane circle around and then nosedive into the ground. Other residents say it sounded like a big car wreck, and I met someone else who came to the scene and told me he could see the smoke from miles away. This accident is a tragedy, but it could have been a lot worse as nobody on the ground got hurt. I could see how the plane barely missed these wires, and while it did cause some damage to the garage, it didn't look like it caused any damage to the house. But in the end, 3 people lost their lives in this crash.
At this time, Nampa Police Department is still working on the scene. We also have FAA here that is investigating the crash as well.
The names of the people on the plane have not been released, and the National Transportation Safety Board will arrive on Monday to help with this investigation. And we will continue to follow this story. I'm your neighborhood reporter, Steve Dent, for Idaho News 6.
In the wake of Brian Kohberger pleading guilty and being sentenced to life in prison, we're now hearing from key members of the prosecution team. Former U.S. Attorney Josh Hurwitz joined the case just months ago and sat front row as victims' families poured their hearts out in court. Now we're sitting down with Hurwitz one-on-one, sharing what went on behind the scenes.
What happened that night changed everything.
4 families, dozens of loved ones, and a courtroom filled with grief.
Today you have no name.
The moments after Brian Kohberger was sentenced to life without parole left a mark on everyone involved.
I don't think there's anyone that worked on this case that hasn't been changed by it.
You tried to break our community apart. You tried to plant fear.
Former U.S. Attorney Josh Hurwitz had just wrapped up his time in office when he was asked to join the state's team.
I was sort of planning my next steps and taking some time, and got the call from Bill that they needed another attorney for the trial, and I was honored to be asked and motivated to help.
But just weeks before the trial came an unexpected turn.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
When the defense approached them about a plea.
There wasn't any bargaining. I know that term gets thrown around, but it was just take it or leave it.
And when it came to the terms, Hurwitz says the prosecution didn't expect Kohberger to offer much in court, and they didn't want to give him a platform.
We did not believe that anything he was going to say would be productive, and we really were concerned that it would be counterproductive and traumatizing for the victims and everyone who's been affected by this. We all would like to know those answers. But as prosecutors, our main goal is to secure convictions and have accountability.
We will grow old without our only child, our bright, beautiful friend and daughter.
And even without a trial, the emotion on sentencing day was undeniable.
The range of responses and statements that we saw on Wednesday, to me, show our shared humanity, that we could understand those emotions of a whole range of folks, and that we can honor the victims by going through that process, which hopefully gave the victims' families some amount of peace, that they were able to say what they wanted to say.
Hurwitz says he'll continue working behind the scenes, helping to unseal records and staying available to the families. After that, he plans to enter private practice in Boise. I'm neighbor reporter Riley Shoemaker, Idaho News 6.
A new statement from family of murder victim Kaylee Gonzalez regarding the recent release of court documents in the case against Brian Kohberger. The Gonzalez family writing on Facebook, quote, "We're slowly trying to process what we've been reading." The family further questioning the fairness of discovering new information at the same time as the general public. It concludes with, quote, "This was part of what we've been fighting for years. Tell us what happened to Kaylee. We deserve to know before the rest of the world."
You can learn more about the case against Brian Kohberger on our website, idahonews6.com. Executive reporter Karen Lair breaks down key evidence and shares emotional reaction from inside the sentencing hearing.
Saturday afternoon, a group gathered in front of Boise's immigration offices to protest the recent rise in ICE arrests across the country.
Protect our courts.
Art and activism merged Saturday in front of Boise's Immigration and Customs Enforcement offices.
So we need to be thinking about what's going on here and do what we can. I know it's really hard. I'm an artist, I can do this. For everyday people, you simply need to stand up and say something when the time comes right to do that.
Artist Mark McGinnis organized the event in response to the Trump administration allocating more funding to ICE operations and detention centers in the recently passed Big Beautiful Bill. Some feel the increase in ICE arrests and deportations threaten due process and the legal protections for both citizens and non-citizens on American soil.
This is supposed to be America. Those are supposedly founding principles. I know most of our institutions have not really held up to that standard recently.
Gabe McGinnis and other members of the chanting choir and tableau troupe of Boise raising their voices in protest.
Save our Constitution. Check that lawful power.
Here in Idaho, last month, Governor Brad Little approved $300,000 in emergency funds for the Idaho State Police to support ICE in, quote, transporting hundreds of dangerous illegal alien criminals out of Idaho jails. While U.S. Representative Mike Simpson of Idaho shared that the funding, quote, provides our brave Border Patrol and ICE agents with the resources they need to keep our communities safe. In response, McGinnis has been using his artistic talents to highlight controversial conditions for those detained.
These are some chains that are similar to those that they use on ICE detainees or prisoners, would be a better way to put it.
In Boise, I'm neighborhood reporter Ali Tripke for Idaho News 6.
After the break, what we know about the most recent trade deal struck between the U.S. and the European Union. Taking a look at your national headlines this morning, a community is reeling following a stabbing at a Walmart in northern Michigan. Over the weekend, at least 11 people stabbed in what authorities are calling a sudden and random attack. Officials say the attack erupted near the checkout area. The suspect, Bradford James Gilley, a 42-year-old male and Michigan resident. Authorities say at this point no motive has been determined and he awaits arraignment on charges of terrorism. A United Nations conference is set to get underway today to discuss a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestinian conflict. That conference will last for 3 days and was organized by France and Saudi Arabia. It comes just days after French President Emmanuel Macron announced that his nation would recognize Palestine as a state. The move was condemned by Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The U.S. also rejected Macron's plan to recognize Palestine. The State Department announced that they will skip this conference. And the Pentagon signed an agreement with Qatar for a Boeing jet that could become President Trump's Air Force One. Defense Secretary Hegseth and his Qatari counterpart signed the deal, calling it an unconditional donation with no cost to the U.S. Retrofitting the plane will likely cost less than $400 million. According to the Air Force Secretary, the agreement could still be modified before any formal announcements. Turning now to the latest on a trade deal with European Union. After months of tense talk, a tentative deal has been reached ahead of President Trump's August 1st deadline. ABC Nicole D'Antonio has the latest.
This morning, the U.S. and the European Union reach a preliminary trade deal after a high-stakes meeting at President Trump's golf course in Scotland. The full details are still being worked out, but the deal calls for a 15% tariff on most EU exports to the U.S., with few exceptions.
This is probably the biggest deal ever reached in any capacity, trade or beyond trade.
President Trump says the EU, which is made up of 27 countries, will also buy $750 billion in American energy and invest $600 billion in the U.S. And he says there will be no tariffs on American exports to Europe. The president of the European Commission calling it a huge deal that followed tough negotiations.
It will bring stability. It will bring predictability. That's very important for our businesses on both sides of the Atlantic.
Despite the tariffs being much lower than the 30% Trump had previously threatened if no deal was reached by August 1st, experts warn that these tariffs will still increase prices for U.S. companies and consumers. Some worry more countries may not follow through on investing.
It is very unclear how also Europe will deliver on these investment plans. Let's not forget the European Commission cannot decide on how individual companies will do their investments.
Other analysts add that prices will still rise on popular European products that previously had low or no tariffs, including French perfume, German cars, and the EU's largest export to the U.S., pharmaceuticals. The deal comes as the latest Marquette University Law School poll shows a majority of Americans, 65%, disapprove of the president's handling of tariffs. President Trump will meet with the British Prime Minister today in Scotland to finalize a trade deal outlined earlier this year. At the same time, U.S. and Chinese leaders are meeting in Sweden for more trade talks and are expected to extend the current pause on tariffs. Nicole D'Antonio, ABC News, Washington.
We talked to Idaho Fish and Game about the walleye issue in southwest Idaho.
Mid-90s as we head into this evening and a chance of storms. I'll have all the details you need to know coming up.
Sophia Cruz with the Idaho News 6 forecast.
All right, well, 6:17 is your time, and thanks for starting your Monday morning with us. If you've already stepped outside, you may have noticed it's pretty cloudy. Over downtown, we have a few clouds hanging out this morning. Although it's been pretty quiet so far, we will look at a chance of evening storms as we head into the later end of the day. Now, as far as where we stop, 96, so if you're making your way into downtown this afternoon, it is still going to be a toasty one. Pretty dry for us throughout the day, but that is not going to be the same story for everyone. Taking a look at our water vapor, you'll notice that a lot of this is flowing in from the southwest, making its way upwards towards the northeast. This is going to enhance our chance of storms as we head into this evening and over the next couple days. Now, just to give you a good idea of what we're looking at for this afternoon, we will have that possibility of storms really from southwest Idaho extending into eastern Oregon. And what this is showing us is our CAPE values, so that storm energy can show us where storms will potentially be strongest and also when. You'll notice as we head into the evening, those storm chances really start to taper off. Now, if you do get caught in one of those stronger storms, the main impacts that we're looking at are gusty outflows between 30 to 50 miles per hour. So that means secure any loose items outdoors. Also be careful of any tree limbs that you may have near your home. These strong outflow gusts have the possibility of knocking some of those down, and it just really causes for a larger mess. And to the later end of the day, we will look at the possibility of heavy downpours, lightning, and hail. And with this, just pack the umbrella just to be sure if you do get caught in one of these stronger storms, you at least have some covering. And just make sure you're staying weather aware. You can download the Idaho News 6 app off the App Store, and it's a free resource where we'll keep you covered throughout the day. Now, just to give you a good idea, again, here's what some of those strong outflow gusts could do. This is from Saturday Meridian. Really, this is the possibility of looking at one of those really stronger storms. It can knock down those trees, so just be super careful as you head into your afternoon. Just really make sure you're staying up to date. As far as what this looks like for timelines, it's not widespread impact, so it's going to be pretty quiet to start the day. We have a few clouds hanging out right now, and as we head into the later afternoon, some of this will start to clear out, but you'll notice that we start to see these scattered showers across eastern Oregon. They move their way upwards towards the northeast overnight, and then waking up tomorrow morning, it's another quiet start for us. But that same chance happens again around 6 o'clock as we head into our Tuesday evening. So a lot of the pattern we'll see as these storms forming later in the day. Otherwise, it'll be pretty quiet for most of us. So just to give you a good idea, from southwest Idaho into eastern Oregon, that's where we have the possibility of seeing storms. Same chance as we head into tomorrow. So these storms are really just not going to continue to really die off until we see another wind pattern change. So this sticks with us throughout the majority of the week into those late evenings. So this goes all the way through Wednesday, even Thursday. That's when we have those possibilities of storms continuing. So stay up to date, but we've got upper 90s through Wednesday, and as you head in through the back end, lower 90s into next week, we'll return to those upper 80s.
A couple of weeks ago, I did a story here at Lake Lowell about walleye and how Idaho Fish and Game urges anglers to catch, kill, and keep this invasive fish. I'm your Idaho Backroads neighborhood reporter, Steve Denton. I talked with the Southwest Regional Fisheries Manager to learn more about this issue.
Our concern with walleye in many waters is just the lack of forage species that we have on this side of the country. And walleye are voracious predators. They're eating all the time. They eat a lot of fish.
Which poses a problem whether you're fishing for bass at Lake Lowell or perch in Lake Cascade or salmon and steelhead in some of our rivers. Art Butts told me in their most recent survey across the state, only 1.5% of anglers chose walleye as their preferred species.
We're managing these waters based on angler input and what anglers want us to be managing for. In the case of Lake Cascade, it's this incredible perch fishery, which, you know, certainly another predator in there, and especially a predator as big as walleye, that could definitely impact the quality of the perch situation. Do we know the extent? No. Same with Lake Lowell.
Last year, Idaho Fish and Game found 31 walleye of different sizes in Lake Lowell. They don't have the background information to determine how they got there, but they believe it came from illegal stocking. They did do a test of the inner ear bone on walleye in Lake Cascade and found those fish were transported to the reservoir at the age of 2. It is illegal to transport live fish in the state of Idaho without a permit, and it's also illegal to release live fish into a public waterway without a permit.
An angler caught doing so can be hit with multiple counts depending on the number of fish that he or she gets caught with, and that person can also be held liable, financially liable, for the expenses that the state has to take to try to fix the situation.
Anglers have been on the first line of defense on this problem, and they can help out by reaching out to Idaho Fish and Game when they catch a walleye in a new waterway. But in places walleye have already been found, it's catch, kill, and keep.
There are no length or bag limits on walleye in any waters in the Southwest region because any place you might encounter them, they were not stocked intentionally.
I'm your Idaho Backroads neighborhood reporter, Steve Dent, for Idaho News 6.
In Twin Falls, how you can take advantage of a chance to hurl projectiles the way early humans did. If you're anything like me, by the time Friday comes around, you're ready to unleash some primal energy. I'm your Twin Falls neighborhood reporter, Lori Nettleton, and for decades, the Harris Center has offered people the chance to channel their inner Paleolithic hunter by hurling spears.
All afternoon, folks show up and give it a try.
This ancient hunting technique was used all over the world, including ancient Idaho, and it's harder than it looks.
We would starve. may have hit the buffalo, but it didn't go in the target, so I think vital organs were missed.
For the better part of the last 30 years, the Harriet Center has invited folks periodically to try their hand at using an atlatl.
Atlatl, what is it?
So the atlatl is what predates the bow and arrow.
Ariana Harmon gave atlatl lessons to anyone who came to this month's Fling It Friday event.
This is what is the atlatl. So you will just take it and launch it out.
Oh, yes!
Back during the Ice Age time, we would have like the mammoth that would be hunted, saber-toothed tigers per se, or of course the buffalo, which we have up there.
You can find out about the next Fling It Friday and other events at the Harriet Center on their Facebook page or website. I'm your Twin Falls neighborhood reporter, Lorian Nettleton, Idaho News 6.
Thanks for joining us this morning on Good Morning Idaho. We have much more in store. Here's a look at what's still to come from your neighborhood reporters.
It has been 4 years since young Michael Vaughn went missing in Fruitland.
Changes are in the works for Boise Bench roads, and I spoke to ACHD about what they plan to do with the $18.4 million grant they were awarded.
Now we'll look outside from the Treasure Valley Chevy Dealers Tower Cam.
Connecting neighborhoods across the Treasure and Magic Valleys, telling stories from within our communities. This is Good Morning Idaho.
Welcome back to Good Morning Idaho. I'm Leslie Solis, and still much more ahead from our large team of neighborhood reporters, like our Sahana Patel, highlighting changes coming to Boise Bench roads ahead of ACHD was awarded over $18 million in federal grants. Plus, a little later, our Steve Dent brings us to the action of the past weekend's Man Triathlon, where over 2,000 athletes swam, ran, and biked their way to glory. More on all that coming up. But first, let's bring our Sophia Cruz for a check on the weather.
All those people completed the Ironman. I personally don't think I could ever do a race like that. So if you did, congrats to you. I know as we start this week, you may be starting off a little bit more sore, but if you're getting out for that early morning jog or walk, it's nice and cool, especially as you wake up in Twin Falls. 64 here to start the day. The sunrise, this is such a gorgeous sunrise that you guys get here every morning. Enjoy it. As we head into the rest of the day, you'll notice temperatures top out in those upper 60s as we head into breakfast. By lunchtime, mid 80s, so some good patio weather by the time we head into 12 o'clock. Dinner time, it'll be mostly clear. Mid 90s are where we're going to stop today. So I'll be showing you where it looks hottest, but also as we head into this evening, we have a chance of storms. Now right now our radar's pretty quiet into the Treasure and Magic Valley, but heading upwards towards our northeast and Lewiston, looks like a strong band of storms moving through. I have all the details on this evening and rest of the week ahead coming up. Leslie.
Thanks, Sophia. We turn now to a missing child case, now over 4 years old. Our Steve Dent follows up on what we've learned since about the disappearance of Michael Vaughn.
4 years ago, Michael Vaughn disappeared in Fruitland, and although this case has taken many twists and turns, the young boy has never been found. I'm your neighborhood reporter, Steve Dent, and I take a look back at what has happened in the past 4 years.
The search for a missing Treasure Valley boy escalates as it goes into a second day.
On July 27th of 2021, then 5-year-old boy Michael Vaughn disappeared in Fruitland. Law enforcement, the community, and surrounding areas immediately responded in an effort to locate the boy, but Michael remained missing.
It has been 115 days. 115 days. He has not been home.
A major development in the case of missing Fruitland boy Michael Vaughn.
In November of 2022, law enforcement dug up a backyard in Fruitland at the home of Sarah Wandra, who was arrested at the time for failing to report a death. Those charges have since been dropped, and police did not find Michael after almost a week of excavating the entire backyard.
Although the remains of Michael Vaughn were not recovered, we strongly believe, based on evidence, that Michael was abducted and is deceased, and that his remains were buried and later moved from the property.
Fruitland police told us the suspects were Sarah Wandra, her husband Stacy, and 2 other people that were living at that house when Michael disappeared.
That's literally the place that he was buried.
In January of this year, a leaked video emerged showing Stacy Wandra giving police directions on where Michael Vaughn got buried.
Like underneath the dirt mound area.
Is that where he's standing?
Yeah, a little bit less, like closer to the house.
Following that new development in January, Michael's mother told us she wants answers, as Michael Vaughn remains missing to this day. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has put out an age-progressed photo, and if you have any information that could help in this investigation, please reach out to the Fruitland Police Department, and you can do so anonymously.
I'm your neighborhood reporter, Steve Dent, for Idaho News 6.
Lori Vallow-Daybell adds 2 more life sentences to her prison record in Arizona. That brings her total between Arizona and Idaho to 5. As we reported, the Idaho Doomsday Mom was convicted of conspiracy in the death of her 4th husband and the attempted murder of her niece's ex-husband in 2 separate trials in Maricopa County. Lori represented herself in both cases and maintains she did not get a fair trial. The judge dismissing that claim and admonishing the killer mom, saying it will take, quote, an act of God for her to go free.
A long prison sentence is not merely a punishment. It is a necessary affirmation that our society values justice, protection, and the sanctity of human life.
Now, of course, Lori Vallow-Daybell was already serving 3 life sentences in Idaho for the deaths of 2 of her children and her current husband's first wife. All 5 sentences will run consecutively. Lori Vallow-Daybell will now return to serve her time in Idaho.
This morning, a pair of lightning-started wildfires continue to grow in the Frank Church Wilderness in central Idaho. The Big Bear Fire has burned over 11,000 acres along the Salmon River, east of Riggins. Crews successfully protected 2 private lodges, and they will continue to monitor the fire. The Rush Fire has burned over 9,500 acres along the Rush Creek and Big Creek drainage. You can see how close the fire got to Taylor Ranch. The Soldier Bar airstrip burned over and is closed for public safety. Another local outdoor shop is going out of business after 30 years on State Street. The boardroom has announced it will be closing its doors. The shop's owner says the landlord declined to renew their lease and plans to sell the building. They say they explored all their options, but the short notice prevented them from finding a spot before winter inventory starts arriving. Starting next week, they'll be selling out their remaining stock.
Changes are coming to Boise Bench roads like these. ACHD was just awarded $18.4 million, and they're planning to put that towards their Build the Boise Bench initiatives. I'm your Boise Bench neighborhood reporter, Sahana Patel, and I had an opportunity to speak with ACHD about their new ideas and designs they plan to bring in the coming years.
I do know our planning team has been working on the application for this grant for roughly a year.
The Ada County Highway District has successfully secured a federal grant of $18.4 million from the U.S. Department of Transportation. And it's the largest ACHD's received.
So we received the news last Wednesday and we're absolutely thrilled, which means we can start targeting some construction dates.
The grant funds will go to improvements in areas along the Boise Bench, like Irving Street, Philippi Street, Allenbaugh Street, and Franklin Road.
Well, all of the segments are around schools and parks in this area on the Boise Bench, and that's another reason why these segments have been targeted.
And one of the 4 areas slated for development is this intersection of Franklin Road and Allenbaugh Street.
Franklin Road, there's a couple parks and a couple high schools right here. Kind of hard to see, but there's walking trails currently is what people are using. So just trying to increase that safety along this segment.
And for other areas, like Allenbaugh Street, ACHD says neighbors can expect to see a full reconstruction.
Involves redoing the roadway, installing curb gutter sidewalks, and green stormwater infrastructure.
But this reconstruction effort doesn't come without challenges.
There's a lot of design constraints with all of these projects. There's 2 very large petroleum lines that run underneath the roadway, the railroad, as I mentioned. Trying to get all of these agencies to coordinate in such a quick timeline for 2028, 2029 is going to be a little difficult.
Residents may also experience the construction's impact.
So with the size of this project, there's going to be, construction detours and delays. Hopefully we get in and we get out is the plan.
Before initiating construction, ACHD plans to reach out to the community.
We are planning to take these projects back out to the public in 2026 for an additional round of feedback.
ACHD tells me they're still in the design process and expect most of the project to take place during 2028 and 2029. I'm your Boise Bench reporter Sahan Patel for Idaho News 6.
Our valley is changing fast, and the city of Nampa wants to hear from you as it plans for the future. Residents are encouraged to participate in the annual community feedback survey, now available on the city's website. From funding priorities to problem areas and areas to make the city an even better place to live, now is your chance to make your voice heard. Let's take a look now at a couple things happening today in your neighborhood. The city of Boise inviting you to join in celebration of the city's newest park. Kaisho Corner, which means hello in Basque, will be located just across the street from the historic Basque block. The dedication event starting at 4 p.m. will include remarks, a ceremonial ribbon cutting, and live music until 6 p.m. And over in Meridian, it's the weekly Monday night market at Story Park. Local vendors, food trucks, and live music all available to the community, along with balloon animals and face painting for kids. You can find free parking at both Story Park and the Meridian Speedway. That's running from 4 to 9 tonight.
In Twin Falls, current and former Boise State Broncos took over Canyon Ridge High School for the annual Gridiron Dreams football camp. For football players here in South Central Idaho, Canyon Ridge High School was the place to be on Friday as the Gridiron Dreams football camp took over Riverhawk Country. I'm your Twin Falls neighborhood reporter Joey Martin, and a handful of current and former Boise State Broncos spent the afternoon honing the skills of these local Magic Valley athletes.
Anytime I can get football over here at Canyon Ridge, I'll take an opportunity.
By athletes, for athletes. That's the mission of Gridiron Dreams.
1, 2, 3,
For 16 years, Gridiron Dreams football camps have been connecting local Idaho football players to the stars of the Boise State football program for some one-on-one training.
This is a camp that's exclusively coached by former and now current Boise State football players, all kind of the same breed, all wanting to be able to come back and give back to the community that cares so much about them.
Based in Boise, Gridiron Dreams Football Academy was founded to impact athletes around the state, implementing strong messages of on-field success and off-the-field commitment and passion.
So we really harp on the details, on helping these kids understand where the standards lie, and keeping them up to those standards, so they can hopefully take that expectation that we hold for them, back into their life, beyond football, but into football as well, and back to their teams.
This is the second year in a row Gridiron Dreams have come to Twin Falls, and event organizers say it's clear from their travels the values of Boise State and the rest of Idaho match perfectly.
And it's kind of cool being, the more that we go outside of Boise, that Boise State blue-blooded, community and culture is still there.
For Canyon Ridge head football coach Juan Alvarado, allowing his student athletes the chance to learn from some of the country's best players is something no head coach would ever pass on. And as the level of competition continues to increase here in southern Idaho, camps like Gridiron Dreams only mean bigger things for the future.
Man, we have good football here. Kimberly's a great program. Twin Falls, and Buell has done some great things, and of course your Minicos and stuff like that. So I hope it brings more recognition, and hopefully in the long run it really pays out to these kids.
This is the last camp of the season for 2025, but if you want to learn more about Gridiron Dreams and any upcoming events, log onto our website at idahonews6.com and click on this story for a link. Reporting in Twin Falls, I'm your neighborhood reporter Joey Martin, Idaho News 6.
We're up here bright and early at Lucky Peak for the Man Triathlon 70.3. I'm your Idaho Backroads neighborhood reporter, Steve Dent. And
And more than 2,200 athletes signed up for this intense race that returns to Boise after being gone for a decade.
This is my hometown, so want to get a good touch on Boise and see the whole course. There will be a lot of energy right at the start line, lots of people hollering and getting pumped to get out there. And then in the water, it'll be pretty quiet.
After the swim, the athletes traded in their wetsuits for bikes cruising across the dam and down the hill towards town. A Boise police officer clocked a rider at 48 miles per hour.
The course was just conducive to fast times today.
The 56-mile course brought the riders into the heart of downtown Boise, where they ditched their bikes and ran the remaining 13.1 miles along the green belt to the finish line. Australia's Sam Applegate won the men's race in 3 hours and 40 minutes in a stacked men's field.
Winning a 70.3 is really hard, especially these days. The level of the sport's just rising and rising, so you got to cherish these wins. They don't come often, so yeah, to get a win here, it's really special, and yeah, I'm stoked with it.
Canada's Paula Finley won the women's race, finishing in just over 4 hours for her third win this year, with Boise's own Danielle Lewis finishing second.
I have so many supporters. My whole community and team is here, so it's very special to get on the podium here at Ironman Boise 70.3.
I'm your Idaho Backroads neighborhood reporter Steve Dent for Idaho News 6.
Mid-90s this evening and a chance of storms. I'll have all the details you need to know coming up.
Sophia Cruz with the Idaho News 6 forecast.
Rise and shine, everyone, and happy Monday. Thanks for starting another morning with us. I hope you're having a good one so far. As we get ready for the day together, it's going to be a hot one, so short sleeves, shorts weather, mid-90s coming your way as we head into the afternoon with plenty of sunshine, but a big driver of what we're going to see is late evening ones at that. What's bringing this in is our current winds aloft. So you're noticing that this is coming from the southwest, which is streaming in that moisture that we need for storms to ignite. As we get ready for the evening ahead, this shows you our storm intensity, and this is our CAPE value. So again, we take a look at where some of these areas are brighter in color. That's where you have the possibility of seeing stronger storms form. So a lot of this being over eastern Oregon, and as you start to make your way into those west central mountains, it decreases overnight as the sun goes down. But you'll notice that throughout the day, it's going to be pretty quiet. So these storms aren't necessarily bringing us widespread impacts, more so isolated. So heading through our morning together, we sit with those clouds throughout our area and really into the upper Treasure Valley. They start to scatter, but you'll notice scattered showers from eastern Oregon extending all the way into our west central mountains. As these storms move in from the southwest, they move upwards towards the northeast. Same story goes for 6 o'clock tomorrow. So a lot of these move in and roll in by 6 o'clock. Doesn't necessarily mean all of us will see these widespread impact or these showers, but what it does show you is that we do start to see a bit of it pick up across those west and east central mountains and also to our friends in Oregon. As far as your storm impacts go, I want to draw your attention to the gusty outflows. We could see them upwards towards 50 miles per hour. That's enough to knock down those tree limbs. So if you also have anything loose outside, you're going to want to secure it in place or bring it in. Now, what we also could see is localized heavy downpour, lightning, and hail. And remember that phrase, when thunder roars, go indoors, because if you're close enough to that storm, you could also are close enough to lightning. So that could just make for a dangerous situation overall. And just make sure you're staying weather aware. You can download the Idaho News 6 app, where we'll keep you up to date as the day continues on. Either way, it's still going to be a pretty quiet day, but just remember, we did see some of these evening storms over the weekend. So this photos from Meridian on Saturday, where that tree limb was knocked down. So these storm gusts are strong enough to do this again today and as we follow through the week. So heads up on that end. Again, though, you could also just run into a bit of rain. So it's just important to be prepared. What's happening is we're getting this southwest flow that's feeding and flowing in all this moisture throughout our evenings, so you don't really notice much change. Even into Wednesday, we stick with those storm chances. Thursday, there's a bit of a break throughout the day, but even into Friday, it looks like this is going to continue on, and then we'll see a drier and calmer pattern pick up as we head into the next week. Either way, upper 90s as we head into today, tomorrow, lower 90s heading in through Thursday and Friday, even a bit of our weekend, and then cooler weather as we make our way into August with upper 80s expected. Now it is Monday. Let's go get you ready for your morning commute.
Idaho News 6 traffic is brought to you by Champion Windows.
All right, 6:51 is your time, and we're giving you a live look of downtown where the sun is coming up, and so are those commuters, but hopefully not those drive times. I know it's Monday, you may have the Monday scaries, but we'll get through it together. You've got I-84 as you make your way eastbound, starting to get a little slow up as you approach, but otherwise it's been pretty quiet this morning. Again, your time right now is 6:52, so it's a good time if you're looking for that early start to the day. Here's I-84 at the Y, a few cars hanging out there, but overall pretty quiet to start. Here's another look at I-84 off of Memory Road.
In this morning's GMA First Look, one-on-one with Kaylee Gonsalvez's sister.
I was prepared to be arrested that day. I think that every single one of us were.
Kaylee Gonsalvez was one of the 4 University of Idaho students stabbed to death in their off-campus home in 2022. Now her sister, Olivia, reflecting on her fiery and relentless victim impact statement.
The truth is, you're as dumb as they come. Stupid, clumsy, slow, sloppy, weak, dirty.
Telling Arcana Whitworth about the dramatic confrontation with her sister's killer.
It fueled me to know that I got you pegged. I had one shot at it and I was going to make the most of it.
And coming up at 7 a.m., more of the emotional one-on-one interview with your GMA First Look. I'm Rhiannon Alley, ABC News, New York.
Welcome back to Good Morning Idaho. We're just wrapping up here, and in case you missed it, these are the top stories we're following from our neighborhood reporters. On Sunday evening, a plane crashed into a Nampa neighborhood, leaving all 3 passengers dead. The victims' names have yet to be released, but no one on the ground was hurt, and the cause of the crash is under investigation. And after a report of walleye in the Lake Lowell, Idaho, Fish and Game are urging anglers to catch, kill, and keep this invasive fish. Our Steve Dent speaks with local fishery to learn about why this species is so harmful to the local population. An ACHD received over $18 million grant, which will go towards the Build the Boise Bench project focused on repairing roadways and other infrastructure improvements. You can learn more about all these stories on IdahoNews6.com.
Now, the Out the Door forecast, brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors.
All right, well, 6:57 is your time, and as you get ready for the start of your day, lower 70s as you head into work, so by 9 a.m. into lunchtime, we'll be sticking with those mid-80s. As we get ready for the rest of the day, we'll stop at those mid-90s. So it is going to be a warm one for us, but again, we are looking at that chance for evening storms to move through. If you want to read more about it, you can head on over to IdahoNews6.com. Otherwise, it is Monday. Let's go get you ready to head into work.
Idaho News 6 traffic is brought to you by Champion Windows.
All right, we're giving you a live look of downtown. Again, your time right now is 6:57. The sun's coming up, and if you're getting ready for Monday, I know Mondays can be a little bit harder. The roads are looking good right now, so if you're traveling on I-84 eastbound, that's when you're running into a bit of stop and go. And just to give you a good idea, that's where we're looking at that area, stop and go, and then also there was some earlier a little bit on Caldwell Boulevard. Now looks cleared up, so it's going to be pretty quiet so far this morning. If you're going from Caldwell into downtown, you've got right now just under 29 minutes. So I'll continue to keep my eyes on the roads, but it's Monday, Leslie. How was your weekend, or do you have the Monday scaries?
No Monday scaries here, thankfully, but I have a feeling this week is going to be a great one, so I'm super excited to continue to join you guys over in the mornings, and it's going to be a beautiful week.
Yeah, I'm excited. You're going to be with us tomorrow, too, and for those of you guys who don't know, me and Leslie are very good friends, so I was so excited to see her walk in this morning. It's her first time doing the morning show, and you're doing great.
Yeah, it was definitely a surprise for a lot of people, and even for me, so we're definitely excited. But make sure to check us out tomorrow morning on Good Morning Idaho.